So yeah, yeah,
it's
go.
very easy to do. So Russian Whispers came about originally because of a Kino London event that we both attended, and I was helping run. I've been involved in helping run Kino London for 3 or 4 years, and we started doing these writing events with the idea to start building a little pipeline of people coming along, coming up with a concept, writing it one week, prepping it the next week, shooting it the week after that, editing it that, and then screening it quite quickly. Just to start building up little filmmaking teams and allowing people to connect when they hadn't got anyone else that they knew who was interested in doing this. So I was a sort of session facilitator originally, and Toby was one of the people who attended, and we tried to work with the constraints of what we had available. And what I had at the time was a house that was just about to be renovated with a garden that was absolutely destroyed from years of neglect. And so we thought about that. We tried to think about things that we didn't really see regularly on the short film scene as well, of older characters. We recognized that almost every little short film you see is sort of a 20-something waking up in bed and
Yeah, very much
slamming
so.
down that alarm clock and going about their day. And so we thought it would be fun to try and write something that involved older characters and that could be based around perhaps my location because I had it available. And so we had this idea of this ruined garden and this sort of garden party reception wedding. And as a group, there's sort of about 6 or 7 of us. We sort of threw in various ideas, and we sort of I don't think they were initially gangsters in the first round, but there was definitely a wealth imbalance, and that's where the idea came from. And Toby went away and wrote a draft, and then we as a team of the original people met once or twice more to refine the draft, but people started flaking away, and it sort of turned out that it was pretty much just me and Toby who were really keen on actually going ahead and making it. So we were initially going to do a much smaller thing, a much smaller piece as well. But as we started casting it and finding it very difficult to cast, because the reason why you never see an old character in a no budget short film is that the people who are older want to be paid to act.
Of course they do, yeah.
And so yeah, you find out quite quickly that that's why you don't see those kind of shorts. But we were finding we did manage to find a very good cast initially, but we were having real trouble casting the Victor role, the Russian father, because by that point we'd also made it more complicated by wanting to put a whole language barrier thing in and operate in a language that neither me or Toby spoke. So we're trying to find
just to make it slightly harder that
yeah
introduce something you have no idea what they're saying. Yeah. And
exactly.
and did he actually really speak Russian? The actor?
So the requirement to be able to speak Russian and not just doing English with a silly Russian accent was a very difficult one to beat. And so it both out of the fact that don't ask, don't get, and that when originally writing the script, Toby had Merab's voice in mind when he was writing that character, because he'd recently watched Mafia on the TV. We thought, why not just write to him, see if he's available, see if he can come and do it. And initially got a nice rejection letter saying, no, sorry, can't possibly do it. And we thought, okay, well, that's fine. And we had someone else who was honestly going to be terrible. I'm not going to name them. It would have been an awful film if we'd gone ahead with that.
Just because they weren't the right person for the role. They're not very good.
They weren't a very good actor, and they had some big emotional issues.
Okay.
So it was going to be very difficult on set to work with them, and so at that point I was veering away from even going ahead and doing it at all because it was proving so difficult to cast this role. And so when Marab said no initially, it was almost like, well, okay, well, we had a good run. Let's park it for now. Maybe we'll try again a little bit later. But then Marab's team came back and said, actually, if you can do it this particular weekend, then we can do it.
Well, so they said basically when you have to do it, when he's free this weekend, and that's it or nothing.
Yeah, well, he's going to be in London that week anyway. So if you help make that happen, then yeah, he'll perform in your short.
Wow.
So that changed things, because then all of a sudden we had a deadline. I think at that point we had about 6 weeks before filming was needed to begin. And I wasn't too concerned about that, but we hadn't organized any of the props or the costumes or the makeup, or we had a DOP and a sort of production team mostly together at that point. But we hadn't really done a lot of prep work. So it was like all but the biggest thing is location, because originally this was all written around my soon to be renovated house, and the garden being a real estate. The good news was the garden was still a real estate, because I'd been in the house for about a year by that point. But what we'd done is, rather than completely finish the garden, we decided we needed to do a lot of work fixing the earth, because there's a lot of drainage problems and stuff like that. So we spent a year digging it up and turning it over and adding more soil and stuff to try and make it not a clay muddy pit when it got a bit wet. So the garden still looked pretty bad because it was covered in tarpaulin and broken chairs and stuff. So we still had that. But the inside of the house, I didn't really want to use. It didn't really, in my mind, maybe fit entirely with the characters. And so we were desperately going around loads of locations, trying to find availability and the right look and the availability on the dates. And it got closer and closer and closer, and it sort of got to about a week out. And I just went, right, okay, we're going to have to do it in my house then.
Yeah,
it's the only way we're going to be able to pull this off. And so with that locked in, only a week before filming, we then had a lot of running around sorting stuff out, costumes and makeup and sound. And then our DOP had to pull out because of a family issue. I think the way I remember it is there's a few hours after I locked the location, and I was just messaging everyone, and then I hear back that he's no longer available. And so, great. So I went back to my sort of list of people I know who do cinematography, and I started contacting people, and John was available, and so John came on board at very short notice to get involved and work through it with me.
Sure. So it wasn't an easy journey. It wasn't something that just kind of fell together. It was very much a labor of love and making it fit the whole thing.
Making it all come together, making sure we had all the right clothes and the right props and the right changing my room to my whole living space from looking like it the way I like it to how we imagine these characters would live in it.
Sure. But of course I'm sure done on like pretty much shoestring budget.
Oh, absolutely. Like, because initially I was planning to spend about 500 quid on the whole thing, feeding everyone and doing everything. And now I'm paying a lot more for, I think we spent a grand on people, just paying them £60 a day type of thing. Everyone got paid the same, very little in the acting side. I couldn't pay the cast. Sorry, I couldn't pay the crew as well. And making a bit of a bigger production as well, we hired in more gear than I originally was going to use to try and make it work faster. But then we ended up spending like 100, 200 quid on a set of track we never used and stuff like that.
Sure. It's easily done.
Because we didn't have time to set it up properly. Yeah.
But so after basically being given this sort of last minute opportunity to make it work on this, and obviously moving towards that deadline, when you had wrapped it, when you had finished it, did you feel that this was worth the battle that you had? What did you manage to capture basically what you wanted to get out?
Again, because of the lack of time, I had quite a lot of shots that I had to drop. there was a on the fly, pretty much, and collapsing a whole bunch of shots. The whole scene where they're outside looking at the garden is shot as a one out of necessity rather than plan. And the whole joke back and forth, that was going to be far more elaborate originally. So we didn't manage to achieve all that I planned for it, but I'm happy with what we got. I'm happy that we got. I'm happy with what we got, given the constraints. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff that I had to miss out on because of time.
Of course. And
planning and crew, basically, because when I lost the DOP, I also lost his crew. So he was gonna come with a few people, and
so it was a pretty big problem basically to solve. When say when a important crew member can't turn up and therefore takes lots of people with him. What was the festival run like?
Well, we also managed to hit the absolute worst time to try and do a festival run of sort of early lockdown. Like I did my first cast crew screening November 2019. We had the big event. I'd have to look at dates to be sure, but it's, that's when we hired a cinema. We went to the Genesis Cinema in East London and did a big screening event of Russia Whispers and Fingers and another project called Ground Rules. So it was then where we started trying to go out to festivals, and then it pretty much immediately ran into COVID. And we lots of festivals converting to online, but then they convert to online and then you don't actually get any feeling for any amount of screen. The view counts on some of the online only screeners. I worked out how to get to one of them once, and it was like 12 or something like that. So it's nice that they selected it, but was it very useful for the project? I don't know. It's a shame, really.
Absolutely, no. It's a terrible shame after you've done all this immensely difficult thing, which is making any film.
Yeah, after all that work of making a 20-minute film and getting it finished.
Do you feel that film festivals will go back to the way they were before? I mean, things are continuously supposedly easing now and everything else.
I can't see any reason why they won't. It's still the better way to network, which is what a film festival really is about. Showing what you've got and sharing it with people.
Yeah, meeting people and yeah.
So I imagine I imagine it will go back to pretty normal.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I hope so too. How did you want to get involved in film in the first place? Because each person that ends up trying to make a film or succeedingly making a film has lots of different reasons why they love film and why they are sort of obsessed with this or have this kind of compulsion to make films.
For yeah, why do we put ourselves through it? Why do we put ourselves through all this pain and suffering and expense?
Yeah, for no money.
For no money. Well, ideally, I'd like to move to a position where it was paying my way as well. But it's a very difficult industry to break into in that regard, especially if you're not, or you're coming to it late in life in a way that I am, because I started a career in IT out of school at 16. So I left school and got a job in IT and been working in IT for about 12 or 13 years, when I was getting a bit disenfranchised with what I was doing in IT, and I realized that everything that I build in IT goes away. Doesn't matter what I build, if in a few years' time it's obsolete.
Sure.
And so all of my efforts and energy has gone into creating this stuff that is great for a little while and then is replaced. And nothing lives forever in the IT world. So I thought film has a chance of leaving some kind of legacy, leaving, that it's still a good film is still as good 40, 50, 80, 100 years later as it was when it came out. It changes because people change and then the attitudes towards it change, and we're seeing a lot of that at the moment, aren't we, with old classics being tagged as being potentially troublesome.
Sure. And I think that itself will pass as well, and things can be reflected upon differently 5 years down the line than they were now versus 20 years ago.
There's a line in my first film that we did in 2011 that I wouldn't do now, because, and I still stand by what we were trying to do with it, but we were taking a very specific cultural approach on the line. That it was around it's a sort of dismissive gay line, where one of the characters is reacting to something, but it's not meant in any anti-LGBT way.
Sure, of course.
It's meant around the dismissive soft side of a stroppy council estate teenager. That's what we were going for.
I think most reasonable people can understand the difference. Certainly in the context of what's going, and maybe the fact that it was several years ago, and maybe now that wouldn't be on TV, but at a point in the lexicon of people,
it was completely standard at the time to use that language in that way. And so that's just in the course of 10 years. That's my first big short film project, Saturday. So that's how I got into it, is that I wanted to start making something that could actually be looked at after a while and not be completely meaningless.
I get that, and it's a good reason. It's a good reason to do anything, isn't it? What could I mean, I tend to ask this of everyone I speak to, because I'm trying to find the answer myself. What could make the difference for independent filmmakers, whether they're making short films or feature films or short films, and the idea that they want to progress up to making their own feature films? What could help independent filmmakers make films where literally they are getting paid? All the actors are getting paid, the crew is getting paid, and the filmmaker, the producer, the director, whatever, is getting paid. Is it something that needs to happen externally? Is it something that the industry needs to change? Is it technology?
The gatekeepers, it's all about money at the end of the day. It's always about money. It's a very expensive proposition to require that many man hours on any project, basically. If you think about how many man hours it takes to create a feature film, even if you've only got a couple of actors and one camera person who's also the director, and like Gareth, what's his name, doing Monsters, you know, he went and did that with a minuscule crew, and then came home and spent years working on the special effects and the edit to finish it. And if you want to do anything more complicated and you don't already have the skills yourself, you have to get someone else involved, and just doubles up the hours. So the tens of thousands of hours of people's energy go into making these feature films, and that when you have that many hours, it just becomes expensive. And the people who control access to the funding are scared of getting it wrong a lot of the time if it's a commercial operation. So they'll take the guaranteed hits of stick these stars in it, you know, we trust this writer because they've already produced successful films, so we'll buy another script from them rather than buy it from the new person. We already trust these directors and we already trust these actors, you know. So breaking into the industry from nothing is very difficult because the people with the money don't want to buy it from you because they haven't got the time to find out if you're any good or not. And the kind of national fund-based stuff, I've personally had no success at, and I know some people are very good at writing the grant proposals and getting through it. But they're also, you have these weird situations where you've got a huge number of people chasing a very small amount of money, in real terms, making it so highly competitive that only the people who already have an in kind of get past that first round of filtering. Unless you know someone to get in, to get the nudge to even know that the fund exists they open for such brief windows. My experience of trying to get there's a particular feature film funding thing that opens for about 6 weeks a year, and if you forget, that's it, you're done for the year. If you remember, they open it and you've got 6 weeks to come up with a whole pitch, put together a team, put it in there, and then you'll still probably get ignored because 500 people do it and there's only 6 places. That's the problem.
It's very difficult, isn't it? And it's almost like, you know, in a just world, although of course we don't live in a just world, but the people that have got the vast sums of money, you know, the Amazons, the Netflix, the 10 other people, it's almost like they should at least fund every filmmaker at least once. So they give someone one chance to make a film. You know, if it's no good, well then obviously you're not going to go make 100 others unless you find your own way to do it. But everyone should get, you know, a certain blanket amount of money. But
everyone should get 2. Everyone should get one publicly funded one and then one privately funded one. If they screw up the privately funded one, then no one has to buy it anymore.
Exactly. They're banned from ever making it.
But again, if they can find someone to give them the money to have another go. But yeah, that first film you're gonna make loads of mistakes and have problems with, unless
true.
Unless you get real lucky and catch the zeitgeist, like
some people do. And that's an interesting one actually, because, you know, I quite like Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, and I like Snatch, and, you know, I like all of his films, but I don't know if they've made a lot of money. But he still seems to be getting work. Do you know what I mean? As in, like, I think they kind of do okay, but they're not exactly blockbusters from my understanding of them. But
but he like Vaughan, I'm really terrible with names. So the producer for Guy Ritchie, who they did Lock, Stock with, did a rain dance course, and so Elliot Grove is very proud of saying, well, you know, this guy did our course and then he made Lock, Stock. And so something about that producer enabled him to get to the next stage of gatekeepers, which is distribution. So you can make a film for no money, but then you got to sell it, and you got to sell it to the distributors, and then and so again, this is another round of gatekeeping that is very difficult to break into, because they want to buy films, but they want to buy films that make money. So
it's ever revolving, ever changing thing, but I think I ultimately, one of the reasons why I started the Film Dimension, and again, we don't have any money, but is because I think people, film fans, or even the casual film watcher, does like to see new things, and they don't want to keep seeing the same thing over and over again. Even Marvel fans would like to watch something other than Marvel films as well, but very rarely do the audience get given anything particularly new. And it's that you've got to find the quirky, unusual things, but that's not what Hollywood's making. That's not what tends to sort of get shown on TV and everything else. But I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because I think people would respond to it, and people do respond to it, but it's almost like the powers that be pretend that no one's interested, and they just want the same thing again. And
I went on a pitching to TV course, and they raised a good point, which is basically commissioners don't want to commission the thing that gets them fired.
Sure, I'm sure that's...
You know, they go, right, I have this challenge, I've got to get these kind of numbers on this particular night, and they've got to do it 9-10 months in advance of what's actually happening. They have to go, right, I'm going to pick these shows because that's what we've got. Then it's going to go out, and you know, they're going to go away, they're going to make it all, they're going to come back, and I'm going to get 10 hours of TV to put out on this schedule, and then if it's no good, then I'm getting fired next year.
Absolutely.
So
or at least
that's why they're so reticent to...
No, of course, and I do understand that. I think, as you said, it's a money-making thing, it's a commercial thing, but I don't know. There seems to be as much nonsense made for big sums of money that doesn't make any money. But this sort of normal stuff that we see over and over again that then it just keeps getting made, even though diminishing returns and everything else. So it would be nice if some people took slightly more chances, but maybe that's too much to ask. But that's where independent filmmakers exist, isn't it? Or at least they should, you know, to be doing something a bit different. And someone gets lucky every 10 years or something.
I wonder who got lucky this last decade, because all the names I mentioned, they were the two previous decades. Who's got lucky this last decade? Who's broken through as a new director?
That's a good point, actually. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who's like the hot newish director. You know what? I can't
think of as people like the earliest I can think of is like 2010, with the guy who did Under the Skin, Jonathan Glazer.
I'm trying to think. Someone
recent directors.
There's a couple of directors that are
the Duffer Brothers breaking through with there's a lot of TV directors who are starting to sort of be making moves, I suppose.
Sure. There's one or two that I know who are doing a couple of different shorts at the moment who I think are very, very good, but they're almost, you know, maybe they're the next batch, but they haven't sort of done it yet. But yeah, in the last 5 years or so, yeah, I'm struggling to name one at the moment. I'm sure they're out there, but again, I suppose it depends on what you class as breaking through or making it, and then maybe these are the people that get snatched up by, say, Netflix, and they just go to make Netflix originals and that sort of thing. So again, it's not quite like it was 20 years ago where you can become Quentin Tarantino, you know. It's all a little bit insular and divided and everything else. But I like to think that technology can help filmmakers reach more people.
Again, that's something that maybe technology has helped and hindered, in the fact that there's a reason why it was much easier to break into the industry in the 80s and 90s, is because it was so much harder to make a film, and the technology was so much more expensive, and so there were just less films being made. These numbers might be wrong, but I think it's something in the region of about 800 feature films being made annually back then, and now it's 3,500. And so and the whole shorts market has just, you know, because we can pick up a smartphone and make something now, it's opened it to make it much more accessible for people, but there's just so much more noise out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously the evolution of things like YouTube as well, which is basically, that's not necessarily films, but obviously there's films on there, but it's just content, whatever that content is, people just talking to the camera or filming their friend jumping off a house and skateboard or whatever it is. It's the content is everywhere, so that has to sort of bleed into the idea of, yeah, there's loads of short films, and if it's some of these short films are mobile phones and there's no real story, again, is it a film, is it a short film, like what are we looking at here?
Oh, I've just looked up those numbers. 2000, about 4,000 feature films were released. In 2016, just over 11,000.
Wow.
And shorts have gone from about 1,000 in live action festival short films 2000 to 2018. In 2000, about 1,000 to match 2016. We're talking just under 7,000. 7,000. So that's what you're competing against when you're producing a short film or a feature film these days.
Sure. So it's a lot of content. lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that's just films. Then you've got all the series and TV and
yeah. I don't know if that's depressing or just odd, or gives you some inspiration and go, right, okay, you just have to be slightly different and you come above all the rest. It's a tricky one.
I definitely go against build it and they will come, because I've built it 5 times and they don't come.
Sure.
You need to have a much better marketing strategy. And there's lots of information out there that says, oh, find your niche, find your audience, work out who your audience are, and then go find out where they hang out, and then tell them about it in as non-spammy way as you possibly can. Which is great, but I don't know who my audience really are. They're people who like my films.
Sure. I mean,
anyone might like my film. I'm not going to pigeonhole you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what sort of databases and a branding, all that sort of thing comes into play, because you're right. It's if you've got a list of 10,000 people who trust your opinion and you say, this film's really, really good, have a look at it, there's a chance that a lot of those 10,000 people would actually watch it. But likewise, if if you've got 200
but
people.
if you have zero audience, you have zero mailing list, you have zero output at the moment.
Yeah, you could have made that an amazing film. Yeah, it's difficult, but that's the same with everything at the moment, isn't it? With social media and everything else, music, film, fashion, just influencers. It's the idea that, you know, the listen to me, and everyone's vying for everyone else's attention, and yeah, it's easier to possibly turn off from everyone and just go, no, I'm not listening. Putting my fingers in my ears. But yeah, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. I think we've gone over some of your past experiences and making the short films. I mean, they are very, very good. I'm definitely going to put them on the film dimension because I think they're really cool. And what do you have planned for the next sort of 6 months? Do you have other projects that you're working on?
I have this one. I just moved the camera.
Oh, okay.
This is the After Effects title sequence for The Chase, which is the new one.
Interesting. What's that briefly about?
It's very silly. It's just 2 minutes in the woods that we did with Tom and Michael Bendip. So Tom, who I did The Man with His Fingers in His Ears with, when lockdown lessened enough.
Sure.
He came over with Michael, who's also in British Rationals and in Tom's other films, the Cup and Ball series. And we just went, it's been 2 years, so let's go and film something.
Yeah.
And we just, we just wanted to try filming some action scenes because I hadn't really filmed action scenes before. So we just went down to the woods with the camera gear and shot, and I've edited it together into a 1 minute 45 little thing.
Cool.
So that's coming out. I've also got my 6-part audio sitcom I've been working on through lockdown with some of the writers from British Rationals and some of the performers from that network. And yeah, so it's a sort of high fantasy with no magic, but dragons.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, I play a whole bunch of ancillary characters. I have a semi-leading role in episode 4.
Cool. And again, where will that be available? Where do you plan?
Well, when that is, we're doing the final edit and sound effects mixes at the moment, and it kind of is in the same marketing hellhole that all my projects are. That we're starting from blank. We have 0 established audience. We have a podcast star. We have Tom Crowley guest stars in one of the episodes, and he's in quite a number of successful big podcasts. So hopefully him shouting about it a little will give us a little bit of cross channel chatter.
Anything that I could do in any small way, I would love to.